I'm excited about these 8 weeks. I think it'll be fun. It's a little bit different than what we normally do, especially on a Sunday where we just take a book of the Bible and just kind of go through verse to verse. This is going to be very topical. Every week's going to have a different topic. It's going to be a different explanation, a different flair. Hopefully, by the end of these 8 weeks, we have a better understanding of what we're hearing from the world around us. Because all of these things are going to be conversations that other people have, and all of these things are going to be, some of them are a worldview that people have, and you're going to be able to hear the worldview come through by the things that they say. And then some of these are going to be beliefs that they hold, and it's going to help you to know them so that when you hear the things that they say, you'll know that they're speaking from a belief that they have, and you'll be able to help and to address that in a way that's more knowledgeable because you've learned about it. And so I'm excited about doing this. So we're going to talk about the first one. The first one today is humanism. Humanism, that's what we're going to talk about. So humanism, what is that? Go.
Study of humans.
So the behavior of people or the study of people.
It's the idea that humans can be self-actualized, that we can achieve all knowledge and perfection and goodness within ourselves, and that we're the best.
That's good, Lindsay. That's good. So self-actualization is actually a buzzword there, and so I'm glad you said that. I do want to point this out. When I taught our homeschool co-op kids world's religions, I always try to make sure that they understood just because you use verbiage that's borrowed from something does not mean you're ascribing to that belief and owning that as your own. And I want that to be true here as well, right? These are things that are in the world, and because we're in the world and it's an integrated world, ideas get integrated, right? So we can take from here and take from here and take from here verbiage, as long as we're not trying to take truth from all the places. We know what the truth is, right? But self-actualization is a thing. It's a thing that we can work towards. It's a thing that fits within the realm of Christianity. You should be a better human right now than you were 5 years ago. Should be. And that's the process of becoming self-actualized. And so that is a term that they use, and it is that we can become the best us, right? I'll give you a simple definition. This is a worldview that places the prime importance on humans, and this is specific, as opposed to a divine or supernatural presence.
Yeah, I just looked at Dr. Google, and that's what it says.
You can Google it up. So the important part of it is it has an opposition. So humanism will be positioned as arms around everyone, but its very definition is opposing. And this is the great contradiction of humanism. So the opposition is that we are in the presence of a divine or a supernatural being, that the supernatural being has anything to do with the world at large or even exists at all. And so they place the prime importance on humans. So we are the apex. We are what the world is all about. We are the reason for existence, and we are everything. And that sounds pretty inviting when you say it like that. But it is in opposition. It's my belief, Google won't tell you this, unless you Google it after I post this, it might find it. It's my belief that humanism is the basis of all the other isms. It doesn't predate all of them, but the acceptance of humanism is what gives credence to everything else, what gave legs to everything else. The fact that humanism is so widely accepted is what makes it acceptable to accept all the other isms in the world. And so I think the moment people decided we're the best, that's the moment that made anything else possible. as far as believing in whatever you want that's not God. Can anyone tell me the first time that this ever happened? Austin said Genesis. Yeah. God created humans, and humans decided they should rule the world. Like, that's the pattern of the world, right? This is not a new thing. And then we see it just erupt, right, to the point where God says, shouldn't have made humans. And then we start over. And then it's not very long. Humans are going, let's build a tower to our greatness. And God's going, dadgummit. Humans. So this is not a new thing, right? The formalized thought, we'll talk about when we got it, how it got here, what we, the kind of the origins of the formalized thought. But the idea, the concept, the underlying belief that humans are apex, humans should be the top of everything, that's not a new idea. That's been around literally since creation. So what are the basic beliefs? Well, the first basic beliefs is that evolution is the key to understanding not just biology, but also sociology and psychology. So this actually takes it a step further than just science. Science believes in evolution. When I say evolution, I do not mean microevolution. You cannot deny, nor should we, microevolution. People are taller now than they've ever been. They run faster than they ever have. There are scientific reasons for that. Additional muscles that come up in our legs. The fact that our lungs capacity is greater, and this is fact, our lung capacity is greater as humans now than it was 500 years ago. When you can get more oxygen to your muscles can do more things, right? There was a time in the world where an 8-minute mile was impossible. Well, now people run miles in 5 minutes, 4 minutes, in the 4s. So you can't deny the existence and the realities of microevolution. This is not what they're talking about. They're talking about macroevolution. Macroevolution is species to species, where one thing becomes another thing. And this is just as much a religion as anything, because just like you can say, well, I can't see God, well, we can't see any species ever become another species. There's no link to that, right? There's no fish cow. Cowfish. There's no cowfish. There's a seahorse. Sort of. It's as close as we get, right? Now, inside species, there's all kinds of things that can happen. And we actually genetically engineer things inside species, right? You can trace the DNA. If you've ever been to the ARC exhibit in Kentucky, you'll learn a lot of this stuff. We can actually trace every dog that we have on the planet back to 7 different pairs. So how did Noah get everything on the ark? Well, he just had 7 couples of dogs, and from those 14 dogs, we have the DNA for every other dog breed that's out there, right? The guy running cows next to us, he's got a bunch of completely black mamas, and he's got a bald-faced red heifer bull, and from that, he's genetically engineering bald-faced black babies. And so this is just what he's doing, right? Within species, we can figure out how to say, I want that cow to have a white face, and we can make that happen. That's not macroevolution. Macroevolution is looking at a fish and saying, I can make that a cow. There's no evidence that that ever happens. It's a theory. It's a theory that is widely accepted. It's a theory that is just fully out there, right? Now, most people apply this to just biology. How did this being, how did this body, how did this species come about? Well, it evolved from a different body, from a different being, from a different species. This is biology. What humanism seeks to do is to take the same concepts of evolution, that something becomes something completely different, and it applies it to sociology, which is our culture, and it applies it to psychology, which is our mind. And so it wants us to evolve in our mind, it wants us to evolve in our society, and the belief of humanism is that as we evolve, we get better. Because humans are the awesomest. Now, do we know that? I'll put that up here because that's what I'm talking about. The basic premise is that as we continue to evolve, our physical attributes, our society at large, and our thinking all improve. Have we proven this to be true? Have we proven this to be not true? Time and time again, right? It's just what we do. We just prove it to be not true. And yet this is still one of the basic premises of everything that they teach. Evolution is the key to understanding not just biology, but also sociology, how society acts, and psychology, how we think individually and how we think corporately. So corporate psychology is not just how do you trick people into buying your product. Corporate psychology is how do we group think, and how do we group think in a way that is similar, right? And so what happens is people who think similarly wind up naturally grouping together, which is why you have people in other states saying, I don't think this way, I don't want to live here anymore, and moving to states that are more like where they think. So this is psychology on a corporate level, and this is what they're saying. When we can engineer and evolve how people think corporately, it will engineer and evolve how society works, and then we're engineering and evolving how biology works because we've thought right, and as a group of society, we now do the right things, and now we can limit and we can do all of this other kinds of stuff. We'll talk more about how that looks in reality because that's happening actually in the world. So we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So evolution is the key to understanding not just biology, but sociology and psychology. That's the first basic belief. Here's the second basic belief. Progress is the key to manufacturing utopias. It's the goal of humanism. The goal of humanism is because humans are the awesomest, we should have the awesomest place to live. And so they think that we manufacture that this happens because we make it happen. And that if everybody would just do what they're told, we would have a utopian society. The basic premise here is that if we work together, we can achieve the ideal societal environment. When's the first time that we see this in human history? Tower of Babel is exactly what this is. Yeah, one person had the idea, let's do this. And everyone else chipped in, and God said, man, okay, it's time to divide their language so they can't, let's confuse them a little bit so they can't do this. This is ridiculous, right? So again, not a new premise, but this is a basic premise. This is a fundamental premise. This is what they're building their belief system on, that if we work together, we can achieve societal idealism. Now, doesn't working together sound great? See how this is an easy sale? Teamwork makes the dream work. That's exactly right. Can't we all just get along? Right? We cannot. We've proven that too. All right, so here's the third basic belief. Temporariness is the key to truthfulness. This is where it gets a little tricky, right? The first two we can say, man, if you phrase those right, those sound really attractive and appealing, and we can see how the masses would be like, yay, let's just all hold hands and sing songs, and we'll all get along, and it'll be great. This is where you start to go, what? Now, temporariness, what does that mean? It doesn't last. We don't last. So the humanism believes that at the end of your days is the end of your days. There's nothing else. So humans are temporary. And because we're temporary, they would say there is no afterlife, there's no heaven, there's no hell, there's no eternal reward, there's no eternal punishment. Your life is your life, and once your life is over, your life is over. That's it. Because we are temporary, then we can define our own truth depending on when we live and where we live. So, the temporary people of ancient Greece, their world might be a little different. Their truth, their reality might be a little different than our truth and our reality today. They didn't have the same complexities that we have, and so we get to define our own truth. We get to do whatever we want. Let's just be honest with each other according to what our own temporariness means. So the basic premise of this is that since we are temporary beings with no risk of eternal punishment, truth can be whatever we choose it to be. How does that work? It doesn't.
No, because there's no foundational truth. Everybody has a different truth.
What if I don't like your truth?
Yeah, I mean,
Start another religion. Make your life miserable.
Yeah, start your own religion, start your own everything, start your own country.
If you just imagine there's no heaven and no religion too, imagine all the people living for today. Really, that's.
That idea.
People that join the Church of John Lennon.
people say that now.
Imagine all the people living for today. Well done, Lindsay. That was well played.
Well with me, but I was like, oh, that's why.
Because it's a humanistic, yeah, and it's oppositional, right? Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I'll give you the fourth one here, and then we'll kind of put them all together. Convenience is the key to understanding morality. Now, as Christians, the first one you're like, the second one you're like, the third one you're like, come on. This one you're like, you got to stop. But this is a basic tenet of humanism. It's the convenience is the key to understanding morality. Well, is murder moral? What if it's convenient? What if it's the most convenient thing?
Well, they have made it legal. They have,
Sure, it's legal, yeah. Yeah. Is lying morally okay? Well, if it's convenient. Like, this is the basic premise of morality. There is no standard of morality. There is no standard of right. There is no standard of truth. Everything is objective. Everything is based on whatever you need it to be at that moment. And this is a basic tenet of humanism. The basic premise of this is that right and wrong are based on consensus, which blatantly disagrees with the focus of the individuality of humanism.
It honestly sounds like the last two you talked about is what's prevalent in our society.
Yes. So humanism is very prevalent in American society. It actually peaked about 2018. We're seeing it come back down with the realities of anti-wokeism in America. We're starting to see that people said, hey, we tried that, and gosh, that did not work very well. And now there's this opposition, right? It does, yeah. Abortion is a big part of this, yeah. And so this creates this opposition, right? And when we talk about our response to it, we'll talk about why our response to it is what it is. But we'll go deeper into some of this stuff. The concept that humans get to just do whatever they want, that really makes living in community difficult. And let me just rock somebody's world here. Because I know my target audience, and I know that when we talk about humanism and we say some of these things that are absolutely, according to a Christian faith and a biblical worldview, lunacy, that a lot of people in the room and a lot of people that will listen to this automatically have in their mind leftist. This is liberalism at its finest. And can I tell you, yes, it is. But what is the opposite of far left? Far right. What's the political framework of the extreme far right? Libertarian. Don't tell me what to do. I get to make my own rules. It's the same thing. It's just packaged a little bit differently. And so what drives the extremes of American society is humanism. It's the same underlying philosophy that's driving both sides of the extreme. And this is what it is. So there's a fifth one. I didn't write that down. I'm glad I have it in here. Fifth basic belief. Science and reason are the keys to solving all of the world's problems. If there's a problem with food, we'll engineer more food. If there's a problem with manufacturing, we'll tariff the world so that we can have our own manufacturing. If there's
They didn't figure greed and all that.
the more
power you get, the greedier you get.
Oh, greed. I thought you said green, like environmentalism. So yes. Yeah, greed. Yeah, they didn't. Absolutely.
Because, it's like, they say that nobody's ever really given us the full, the table, like H2O and all that. They say there's a lot more to that.
More elements.
More elements.
Uh-huh.
But somebody's hid all that from us. Now, I don't know if that's a conspiracy or if it's true,
I don't know.
but,
I don't know.
people get greedy. They want to use the science to twist everything.
If they have adamantium and that's a real thing, adamantium is it's a fictional element that makes the Wolverine's metal indestructible.
They say there's more elements and more technology.
We are discovering elements. I know that they are discovering things.
And there's people that have left us in the dark with technology and stuff. Whether that's true.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. I don't know. When it comes to conspiracies, like what's the value is always a good question. Like why? What am I going to do with a hydrogen molecule? I don't know what to do with a hydrogen molecule. Like why would we need to confuse the masses that there's adamantium is a real thing when it's not? Maybe there's a value to that. Maybe there's not. I don't know. Are we being corporately deceived by those in charge? 100% yes. And that is intentional, right? Absolutely. So, yeah. And some of that is probably corporate patents, right? If I engineer a new element and that element is key to what I do, I'm not sharing that with you. I don't even want you to know that it's there, right? So there are some of those things as well. So are there more elements that we have in the periodic table? That's possible. I think we're discovering new things. We're discovering new species. It's funny, all the time you read things like, hey, we just found this frog that we thought had been extinct for 400 years. Turns out there's billions of them. Who knew to look in a rainforest? It's like one of those things. So they think that science and reason are the keys to solving all the world's problems, everything. So if you struggle with depression, you need to reason yourself out of that. Or we can science you out of that, take 2 of these and call me in the morning. Right? Oh, you have relational difficulties? Well, you need to reason your way through that, or we science our way through that. Oh, this country over here is at war because of the genocidal leadership. Well, we need to science our way through that, right? Create one smart bomb, start over. Like, this is their answer to everything. Science and reason is their answer to everything. They want us to logic our way through everything. They want us to... So the problem is not morality. The problem is not a breakdown of society. The problem is not values. In their mind, the problem is we don't have enough people in a lab dedicated to solving this problem. That's their solution. So the basic premise to this is that the world improves at the same rate as knowledge increases. What do we think about that? Is that true?
Just look at the internet.
Yeah, internet.
People used to be able to memorize half of their phone book.
Sure, yeah. We don't even know like our own phone number sometimes, right? We used to know everybody's phone number. Yeah. Listen, I can tell you the phone number of my best friend growing up. I don't know my daughter's phone numbers. I have to look at it. It's call Ava. Like what's her number? Call Ava. Is there enough squares for me to fit that in? There is, that works. So yeah, absolutely. The more knowledge we have, the less knowledge we have a lot of times, right? But they want to put it on a graph and say as knowledge increases, the world improves at the same rate.
But there's improvement as knowledge is better. I don't know what the graph would show on a rate, but there is, the more knowledge we get, we do get improvement.
Yeah, I agree with Keith. He said the more knowledge we get, the more improvement there is. And I do agree with that. I do think more knowledge is better than no knowledge. And in fact, that's one of my counseling tactics. Like when people sit down and say, I got to do this, what do I do? Well, first of all, you need to gather information. That's a critical phase. And if you haven't gathered the information, you don't know what to do because there might be things that you haven't considered. So let's start by gathering information, right? So I do firmly believe that. The more information that the world has, does it make the world a better place, a safer place? That I don't know that I can agree with.
Yeah, I think.
Because what do we do with the knowledge?
All right, here's a simple one. The atomic energy.
Yeah.
Right? How many wars have we had since we've had nuclear devices? De minimis compared to the annual deaths that we used to have.
That's probably true.
So you're getting knowledge and less death as the world's improving. Look at the amount of people on Earth right now. It's 8 point some billion. You know, some of it comes from not killing each other.
But globally, is that better?
Is it worse that we're not killing each other?
I mean, I hate to be Thanos, but we got entire countries that we can't feed.
No, wait. There's more people dying from too much food than there is from not enough.
Listen, this is true. This is true.
No, it's not. It's worldwide.
It is. Yeah, that's true.
Brock isn't saying that the world doesn't improve as knowledge increases. It doesn't improve at the same. It's not a 45
And that's what I
degree.
said earlier. Lindsay. I don't have a graph
Yes.
to show it.
Right.
I think what it says premise, that our world improves, it's not only off of knowledge. Our world can get better in ways other than just increasing our knowledge. They're trying to say science and reason, the only way our world's going to get better is through science and reason because our knowledge in science and reasoning is improving.
So here's
It
the
doesn't say the only way.
It does. That's what that basic premise. That's exactly what that means. Our world will improve at the same rate as knowledge improves. It is saying
But
that.
you said only.
so
That's what it's implying.
No, it's implying, Mike. It doesn't say that.
But if there's not a foundational truth, which is lacking in all this, there's no foundational truth, no matter where you got all this reasoning and all this science, there's nothing really to keep building. You're just all, this and that. And I mean, it's good to gather all this knowledge and, things do change, knowledge improves things, but the moral fiber of everything is falling apart.
Right,
The
knowledge.
morality, the moral fiber of the human race is falling apart while we're all getting so much smarter. So how does that happen? I'm asking you, how does that happen? If this knowledge is making us smarter, how come the morality is no longer there? There's no basic foundational truth for anything. Everything goes.
with humanism, anything goes. Whatever is convenient.
Right.
Yeah. And
It's
so
not improvement.
there are metrics where the world is definitely a better place.
That's
there are metrics where the world is definitely not a better place. Their premise is that all metrics will improve as we gain knowledge, as we apply science and reason. By any measurable standard, the world is better. That's their premise.
But in today's world, well, not just knowledge, but technology increases, like it doubles like every few months.
Sure.
So the world isn't improving that quick, not the same as technology.
Yeah, technology advances very, very quickly. It does. And it takes a while for the world to catch up to that, right? There are even commercials out right now, like stop using ChatGPT as Google. Like they have these commercials out, right? It's like, why? That's all I need. I just need something to tell me what to do, right? I ask Grok, that's what I do. So, well, it'll do more than that, but I don't need it to do more than that, right? Until I realize that I do. And then I'll figure that out, right? So the knowledge has not really, just because one person or a small group of people have the knowledge doesn't mean that it's collective knowledge. And it doesn't mean that the knowledge that they have is being used for the betterment of society, right? Which is why right now there's all kinds of laws being written about, hey, stop making AI produce false pictures of high school girls that are naked, right? So, I mean, there are things that we do with the knowledge are sometimes not helpful and not good, and in fact wrong, right? And so the knowledge is there. Has society figured out how to utilize the knowledge for its betterment? Probably not yet. But again, their premise is every metric, every measurable way, the world is better as knowledge increases. So can we look at that and say, yeah, but this and this and this? Sure we can. And we could actually do that with probably all of these. We could find examples where this is true, and that's the reason it's believable and why people buy into it, right? But by every metric, we can't say by every metric the world improves at the same rate as our knowledge increases. Can't say that. So where did it come from? Where did it go? Where did it come from, Cotton Eye Joe? I just finished that for you guys. I know that was in your head. So in literature, we actually start seeing this prominently used in about the 1850s. It's been around again for much longer than that. Humanism again, Garden of Eden, right? And then again in Babylon. And then we see it throughout the Bible. And so this...
Are you saying that's when they termed it?
formalized thought. No, it's actually earlier than that. Formalized thought is actually as early as like 1100s. Really about 1500s is where, we'll talk about that, but where we really start seeing it prominently mentioned and accepted is in the 1850s. That's where we really start seeing an increase in literature. As you look at literature and the philosophies that guide literature, you can kind of tell what worldviews are prominent based on the literature and the art and the things that we're producing, right? And so in the 1850s, we see a spike. This goes, it's kind of going along like this. 1850s starts going like this. And it keeps doing this till about 2018 where it plateaued. So the church would hope that it would be on its decline. We don't know that. It's not been long enough for us to actually identify that, but we do know that the peak stopped about 2018. Most of it trace its origins back to the Renaissance. The Renaissance is from 1500s to the 1700 thereabouts. And the Renaissance is the bridge between medieval times, the Middle Ages, and modernity, the modern society. And so the Renaissance really kind of helped us come out of one and into the other. There are things that happen. I'm going to give us an example of this in a minute. There was some things that happened in the Renaissance where a lot of ideas and philosophies were just put out there. And in the Renaissance, it was sort of a rejection of everything from the previous. So if you previously thought everyone should wear clothes, we're going to paint pictures with nobody has on clothes. If you previously thought boys and girls should get married, We're going to endorse boys marrying boys and girls marrying girls. If you previously thought Jesus is God, we're going to formulate a formalized thought called humanism to directly oppose the concept that Jesus is God, because humanism says there is no God, so Jesus couldn't be him. So this was originated as direct opposition, see there's the word again, direct opposition to the deity of Jesus. They believed in Jesus. They believed that Jesus was a human. They believed that Jesus did some really cool things. And they actually used Jesus as a picture of what humanity can become when we self-actualize and become the greatest version of ourselves. Jesus is the example of a human that just embraced his humanity and started walking on water. And you can walk on water too. Look at yourself in the mirror. Water's got nothing on you. You deserve this. You deserve to walk on water. You're awesome enough. You can do it. You've got this, girl.
Just Google it.
Yeah, YouTube can teach you how. We're going to come up with the knowledge. We got people in the lab right now trying to decide scientifically how we can walk on water and raise the dead and heal people. This is humanism. So they look at Jesus and they say, he's just a dude, but he is the dude. And everybody wants to point to him and say he's God. He's not God. He's just a human, and he is the example of what we can all be. We should all be walking around healing people and raising the dead. We should all be walking around opposing oppressive government. We should all be walking around helping the little guy. We should all be walking around walking on water and raising ourselves from the dead. This is where they start to get buy-in from nominal Christians. People who go to church but don't really have a faith developed of their own. People who hear things from their church like you should serve, you should give, you should help. Do not think more highly of yourself than you ought. They take principles out of Scripture and they say, it's what Jesus did. Yeah, so what you should do is you should be the best human that you can be. And how do you do that? You decide.
Boy, that's infiltrated in the church.
Yeah, it is.
Big time.
Yeah, it is. When you start looking at Christian literature, it's full of humanism.
And religiosity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, humanism really, really drives it. So it was originated as direct opposition. So because it was originated as direct opposition, everything that spawns from it is going to be oppositional. We see it resurface and really gain popularity, especially through the 1870s, peaking at 2018. Can just offhand, can anyone tell me why in the 1870s we start to see this utilized in literature and gain wide acceptance throughout the world? Close? Nope. They were influenced by someone. There is an individual. Not Darwin, not Shakespeare. No, it's not the Mormons. No, that's that's good. One Dr. Sigmund Freud. The father of modern psychology. So as he begins his pursuit to understand what makes a human, it became one of his chief beliefs that every human could be better. And since they could be better, they should be better. And if there is a better version of humans, who am I to say what that version is? You get to say what the best version of you is. And this still drives psychology today. It's called client-centered approach to therapy. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to work on? Those are the things that we'll talk about and work on. Oh, I'm not allowed to bring that up. Even though I'm the trained professional that can identify this, I can't tell you that that's wrong unless you tell me that it's wrong. It's humanism. And Sigmund Freud took a lot of notes and published a lot of thoughts and gave a lot of speeches. And he didn't do it alone, right? He had some friends of his that were all coming along, and it actually started this whole conversation of, hey, your approach is this. I don't think that. I think the approach should be this. But what was the same underlying factor? Humans are the awesomest. We just have to help them be the awesomest. That's the underlying factor. So even if their approach to helping humans be the awesomest is different, which is where all the different thoughts and styles of psychology arose, the underlying principle of those not all of those psychologists was humans are the apex. We just have to help them unlock it and unleash it. And if there's something holding you back from being the awesomest version of you, we can figure it out. And together we can help you through science and reason. And by science and reason, we can unleash the best version of you on the world. Ready, go. And that was where psychology was born. And so as Freud gained popularity and notoriety, and his writings began to infiltrate the rest of known science and known the rest of the educational sphere, right? So it wasn't just now doctors doing this. Now it's educators, right? What does every school have right now? A school counselor. Everybody's got one, right? I mean, we start them young. And I love school counselors. So this is not against school counselors. This is just the origins of where humanism came. Now, is that where psychology stayed? Some of it. Yeah, some of it is still about how to unlock the best version of you. But a lot of it now is just about how do we help you sort through things. Sometimes you need a sounding board and an outside voice. It's about helping, right? But that's not where it began. It began in a humanistic endeavor to unleash the most awesome version of whatever you think that is. So Sigmund Freud, that's where we find its popularity mirrors his rise. What is our response? Well, our first response, I did want to give you an example of, we'll go back, in the 1500s when it really started to take hold. It is my belief that all of the ills, and that's I steer away from inclusive terminology. So when I say all, that's significant because I don't normally use inclusive terminology. It is my personal belief that all of the ills that we see in the world are a result of the church not being the church. And I think that goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden. When the serpent came up and said, God not tell you that? And Eve goes, oh, this is what he said. A loving church member should have said, oh, actually, that's not what he said. I see where this is going. Let's offer it an off-ramp. There's accountability built into the church. Adam failed to hold his wife accountable. And we see that on repeat. The microcosm of the Garden of Eden is the macrocosm of the world today. What are the problems with the world today? The church isn't the church. If the church was the church, we wouldn't have to have welfare. If the church was the church, people would be getting healed, right? If the church was the church, people wouldn't be shunned and rejected. They would be accepted. Right? Everything that humanism is striving for would actually be accomplished if we just surrender to Jesus and do what he tells us to do. And we see this track actually through the history of the church. So the visitations, pastoral visitations and praying for healing was actually an invention of, does anyone know? The Catholic Church invented this. They actually wrote a book about it. And they gave the books to all of the ministers. If you were a Catholic, if you were ordained as a priest in the Catholic Church, you were given a book. This is your manual. And in the manual, it had something called an unction. And the unction was you go to those that are sick and you pray this prayer and you anoint. And it used to be that they would get water that was blessed by a bishop, if not the Pope, and they would send that out. And then the priest would take that into the home of the sick person. They would bless the water in their presence. They would sprinkle them with the water in the form of the cross. They would take communion with them, and there was a prayer of faith that they would be healed. And there, in the Catholic Church history is full of healings. And then came the Middle Ages. And what happened in the Middle Ages? The plague. 50% of the world population was wiped out in most locations. And what did that leave humanity open to? War. And so in the Middle Ages, you actually see the rise and the fall, not of empires, but of people groups that were terrible. And so one group comes in and just pillages the countryside and sets up shop. And then the next group comes in and pillages the countryside and sets up shop. And every time a new raiding force comes in, they kill all of our men and steal all of our daughters. And this was the history of the Middle Ages. And the church's response to this, out of pure, I don't think they were like, well, we're going to set the future of the church right now. We're making a decision that's going to change the world. But they did, but they didn't intend that. Out of compassion, they're looking at the realities of the world around them and going, gosh, death is probably better for you. You've got the plague? I've seen that. Let's just pray that God will take you quickly in His mercy. And from the first book to the third book, the whole section on going to the house and praying this prayer of faith for healing and believing in healing changed to go to the house and pray a prayer that became what is known now in Catholicism as last rites. That God would help you transition into eternity because eternity is better. So what we did was we took a focus away from it. Really, if you want to look at it, it goes into like the philosophies of the day, right? So Plato had a triune view of mankind, that we are body, soul, and spirit, which is biblical, and that's what governed the world. Aristotle comes in. Aristotle disagrees with that. The Aristotelian views of man really kind of took off, and people forgot about the Plato, and they really just viewed. So Plato would view we need to be good now, and we need to focus on eternity because there's one of those two. And so that's what really a lot of the early church was really built on Plato, just as much as Jesus. And so we want to impact now, so we should be serving those that need. We should be feeding the hungry. We should be traveling and helping people. We should be sending missionaries. We should be raising the dead. We should be healing the sick because now matters. But we do now because the more now matters to us, the more impact we have on other people because eternity matters. This is the modern day church. This is how it should work. Right? We're alleviating problems for people so that they can go to heaven.
But isn't that, some of that is biblical though?
Yes, that's very biblical. Yes, that's what I'm saying we should be doing. Based on the Plato model, that's what we should do. Now matters because eternity matters. The Aristotelian model was now is terrible and you're not going to live very long anyway. You should only focus on later. And there was this big shift in the church as the fathers of the church at that time began to adopt this modality of now doesn't matter as much. Eternity matters. So, yeah, life is short, eternity's forever, Let's kind of focus on the forever part. And it shifted everything. And so they stopped believing for healing. They stopped raising the dead. They stopped trying to help everybody. And they began shifting towards, hey, if you're going to die, we're going to help you die nicely. We're going to make sure that we say last rites over you so that you have an easier transition into eternity, because that's the goal anyway. And it shifted everything in Christianity. And in the Council of Trent in 1551, is when that became the official position of the Catholic Church. The sacrament of healing was transitioned officially to the last rites prayer in 1551. And when does humanism really take root? 1500s to the 1700s, mirroring the response of the church, I think. So what is our response? How to respond to it as Christians? Well, first of all, humanism claims to honor life. From a biblical perspective, we would say they don't honor life enough. Are humans apex? Honestly. Apex means the top.
The creatures on earth, yes.
Yeah. As far as creation, we're the crown jewel of creation.
But there is a higher power.
Yes, there is a higher power. And this is what makes them not value it enough. Oh, I didn't explain all those on there. I'll get back to that. So, when they would say that the honor that belongs to humans is based on evolutionary awesomeness and the fact that we've evolved beyond everything else and that we are the apex predator. That's what they would say. Forever. We're the top of the top.
They don't honor it later. Like when you're dead, they don't honor it.
But they don't even talk about that because there isn't any later.
Well, they honor your memory when you're dead.
They would honor your memory.
Legacy that you leave and the memory and the knowledge that you
Yeah.
brought into the world. I mean, that's as much of an eternal anything as you could get when it comes to
So the value they place on humans is a high honor. And it's very tied. Right? And they think that all humans should just, you're the best of the best, you have honor, and you have honor because you're a human. Right? A biblical world, no, go ahead.
In our society, that's not true. I mean, they don't value human life. If you're homeless, if you're a drug addict, if you're a prostitute, you're not an apex human, I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? So, if you have mental illness, you're not an apex human. So, I mean, I don't think they value life like that.
I would disagree with the humanistic standpoint. There are pockets of society where that's very true, where they devalue humans. From a humanistic standpoint, they would want to champion those people and get the reason that they have mental illness is probably because they don't have a job. Let's let them run government. You don't know what gender you are? You should be in charge of the military. Like this is like I think they should. I do think that they would. I know. So we get to edit this before we post it online. From a humanistic standpoint only, they would champion those people. They would say, hey, listen, society should not be doing this. Now the part where we would disagree with that they don't actually honor people is abortion. Like who are you going to honor? The baby that you're killing? Like, how do you say that you honor people? And abortion actually is the thing for all of these. Like, okay, but that doesn't work with abortion. Yeah, but we think this. Okay, but that doesn't work with abortion. Right? I mean, that's the thing that we can say with all of them. But from a humanistic standpoint, they would say, no, we do value that person. That person they are the peak, right?
I think she's talking about just people in general don't honor those
Yes, but I'm talking about humanism.
people in general.
Yeah. And I agree. Like I said, pockets of society that devalue people, but humanism, the philosophy of humanism would claim to value those people. But the value that they give is just because they're people. There's a greater honor when you are created in the image of the one who created everything. That's a big honor. He created everything that you look at and everything that we're yet to discover. And he said, let us make man in our image. What an honor, right?
Also, lets you live with him forever later.
Yeah,
They don't agree.
yeah. Somebody read Genesis 1:26. While someone's turning there, someone else flipped to Psalm 8, 4 and 5. And then someone else, Romans 2:7. Genesis 1:26, Psalm 8, 4 and 5, and then Romans 2:7.
Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea, and the birds in the sky, over the livestock, and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground.
So we are apex, and we're apex because God said it. And man, what an honor is that, right? And so by claiming that there is no God, they're actually removing honor that God gave us, right? So they don't honor enough, right? Someone read Psalm chapter 8, verses 4 and 5.
What are mere mortals that you should think about them? Human beings that you should care for them. Yet you made them only a little lower than God and crowned them with glory and honor.
Yeah. So this is a prayer to God in the psalm, right? He's like, who are we? Except you chose to make us, and you chose to give us honor and glory. Isn't that cool?
It is cool. If you really take that down a little further, like, he says his kingdom is backwards. Those who are low
Yeah,
are
good.
the greatest in his kingdom. So if you think about that, actually humans are probably the lowliest of all his creation, because his creation is backwards.
Yeah.
That's why, am I making sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, the least will be the greatest will be the least. I'm not going to go wrestle a bear, right? It'll eat me. I get that, right?
But in his kingdom, we are high
Yes.
because we were the lowest.
Yeah.
So he elevated us to that.
Yeah. And to claim anything other than God himself, maker of heavens and earth, chose to honor us, it removes honor from us, right? Romans 2:7, somebody.
To those who by patience in well-doing seek for glory and honor and immorality, he will give eternal life.
Yeah. So Romans actually tells us we're to seek honor, the honor that he bestows on us, right? Here's our second response. Humanism claims that human life should be free, but doesn't recognize freedom enough. This is a theme, right? Everything that they're claiming that they want, they can't actually achieve without God. So they claim that we should be free, you get to be free to do whatever you want. You get to choose whatever's convenient, whatever your truth is. You want to be a cat, we're going to put kitty litter in the bathroom for you, whatever you want to do. You just be you, right? This is humanism. Again, the easiest evidence is abortion, right? You should be free to kill somebody. Well, at what age? In California right now, it's up to 2 months post-birth.
But isn't that because science, they use science and just say, well, that's not a human.
They can't actually use science to say that. They're using corporate reason to say that. Science says that's a person. Science says that's a person when the heart starts beating, which is before you can really detect that you're pregnant. So that's what science says. And that's why in all the sciences, the heartbeat is what determines life and death. If you're a physician, you give an oath that as long as there's a heartbeat, you're saving that life. And that life is not ended. When do they determine the time of death? When the heart stops, right? And so all of science recognizes that the heartbeat is life and that life is a human, except abortion. This is the big contradiction. This is why it makes no sense, right? It makes no sense to the scientific community. It makes no sense to the legal community. If I kill a woman who is pregnant, I get charged with 2 murders. But if she kills the baby on her own, that's fine. Like it's a huge legal contradiction as well as a scientific contradiction, as well as a moral contradiction.
There was an accident in Oklahoma City. It was probably, I probably had 2 years old. So it was a long time ago. And the lady that died didn't know she was pregnant. They found out, in an autopsy. They charged the person with 2 months.
Yeah,
And she didn't even know.
yeah.
So she had no clue she was pregnant. The father didn't know.
So that's an early pregnancy and still counts as a person. In the legal setting, it's still a person. Yeah. So this is a huge contradiction, right? Humans should be free. Well, what about that baby? That baby's not free. You're killing that baby. If you were to ask that baby, do you want to die? It would tell you no.
I thought and I know this is some ignorance on my part, and I know it is, but I know that maybe they left it up to each state, but didn't they change it, Roe versus Wade?
So that
Become illegal to have an abortion?
it's not illegal. It did go back to the states. So what Roe v. Wade said is there's a federal law. And what the reversal of Roe v. Wade said is there can't be a federal law. This is a state issue. And so every state gets to say what they want to do. And then all of those are being contested up to the Supreme Court, right? So the law in effect of 2 months post-birth in California, it can't actually take effect because it was immediately contested, and then contested, and then contested, and it'll go up to the Supreme Court, and they'll have to make a ruling. And when that happens, when something gets contested like that, it gets put on pause if it's a new law. If it's an existing law, a lot of times it exists already, and if you're trying to redo an existing law, it stays in effect until they change it. But if it's a new law, it doesn't go into effect until the Supreme Court says, yes, that's a constitutional law that can go into effect. To my knowledge. Yeah, but that's their goal. It is madness. Yeah, it's absolute lunacy. So they think that everybody should be free to do whatever they want, free to act however they want, free to say whatever they want, right? Where do we see other limitations? That abortion's an obvious one. Where do we see other limitations of how your freedom might not represent my freedom?
Well, being a Christian, Christianity, everybody else has the freedom to say what they believe, but if you stand up as a Christian and you say, I'm sorry, the Bible's against homosexuality, you better look out.
That's exactly right.
You don't have any freedom.
So Christianity's another one.
You do not have the freedom to tell the honest to God truth.
So humanism says you get to choose what your reality is. You get to choose what your truth is. You are free to be whatever you want to do. Society should meet together and live in societal harmony. We are a society of consenting adults right now. We have consented to worship Jesus and to come together in His presence and to be a community of believers. This is our consent to do that. And humanism would say, oh no, you can't do that. You can't be a Christian. You can be free to do whatever you want. Oh, but you can't worship Jesus. There's no God. You can't mention God. Right?
You can't have just a marriage between a man and a woman. That's not freedom.
Yeah, you get to do whatever you want. Yeah, freedom. So the funny thing is that everything that they talk about is just a big contradiction. Somebody read 2 Corinthians 3:17. While someone's turning there, someone read Galatians 5:1 and then stay in Galatians 5. 2 Corinthians 3:17.
Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom.
Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Where is the Spirit of the Lord? Where should there be freedom? So they're out there saying, you should be free. Well, that happens with the Spirit of the Lord. So if you deny the Spirit of the Lord, you're actually denying freedom. Because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. So if you're pursuing the freedom of the Lord, if you're pursuing freedom but trying to deny the presence of God, you're actually destroying the thing that you're pursuing. Right? Galatians 5:1.
For freedom Christ has set us free. Stand firm therefore, and do not submit again to the yoke
Go down to 13 and 14, actually.
Okay. Look, I Paul, go down there. Don't read to the.
No, just 13 and 14. 1, 13 and 14.
For you are called to freedom, brothers. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. For the whole law is fulfilled in one word: you shall love your neighbor as yourself.
Why do you think Paul had to give the instruction, don't use your freedom as an opportunity to sin? That's what they're doing. Yeah, he knows it's our nature. This is the humanistic nature, which is the basis of humanism, right? No, everyone should be free. If you want to steal that, steal that. You want to feel that way, feel that way. You want to think that way, think that way. You want to dress like that, dress like that. Everybody's free. You get to just do whatever you want to do. This is, you do you.
Did you read 15?
Re-
If you bite and devour one another, watch out that you are not consumed by one another.
So this is talking to humanism is what it is, right? Because again, it's based on opposition, right? And so what they want to do is they want to destroy you.
They definitely want to destroy your belief in Christ.
Yes. I thought I had a good answer to that written down, and I can't find it. Yeah, the American Humanistic Association, their motto is good without God. In their minds, religion equals superstitious, and superstitious equals stubborn. So the phrase, we need to come together, which is one of their big phrases, is really code word for we need to eradicate any opposing view by any means necessary. So why do they oppose us? Why do they want to destroy us? Because we disagree. And if everyone who disagrees, think about political agendas out there, right? Yeah. Think about political agendas. Well, the world should just be great, and we should just give everybody everything, and everything's going to be great. You disagree with that? Well, you need to die. Because if we could get rid of everyone who disagrees with us, we would have the perfect world. Well, yeah. Go ask old Italy about that, right? Go ask Greece about that. Look at Canada right now. Like, there's a lot of things, right? I mean, where people have tried that, and it just doesn't work. Maybe. Yeah. So the whole thing is they want you to be free to choose what they tell you to choose and what they think you should choose. And if you're not willing to choose that, then it's opposition because it was born from opposition, so everything that it spawns is opposition. All right, so it is for freedom that you've been set free. That's the whole reason Christ came, was to give us freedom. So they say, no, people should be free. And we're like, yeah, we are. Thanks.
There's an old phrase, the older I get, the more I like it. Just keep it simple, stupid. Because here's the thing, God's way is so simple. It's a foundational truth that you can build on.
Yeah.
And it's just left to ourselves, we're going to destroy ourselves.
Absolutely.
And kill each other.
Absolutely.
But when we ask God into our heart, He saves us, we become a new creation. I love it, it's simple.
Yeah,
All
it's
this
simple.
crap, this is BS.
Yeah. All right, here's our third response. Humanism claims that humans possess glory, but don't recognize that glory enough. They place limits on everything. This is the fact that humans possess glory. This is the baseline for all the you are good enough, you are beautiful, all of those philosophies, they stem from this, that humans have glory. Amanda and I took an Uber the other day, and the guy had on his rear view mirror, "You are beautiful." On his, it was an Impulse Valley. But where I was sitting in the Uber, that mirror was on me. And I was like, this Latino dude thinks I'm beautiful. And maybe, I don't know. He kept looking at me in the mirror. No, he doesn't. But this whole, yeah, I didn't either, in case you were. I like your eye makeup. Yes. Yeah, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. It's humanism. Yeah, this is what it is. Absolutely. Yeah. But they don't take it far enough. So we read Psalm 8, 4, and 5 already. Who are we? Who are we? And yet you chose to put us at this elevated state, and you chose to bestow on us glory and honor. Like we have glory. And the reason we have glory is not because we've evolved. It wasn't just luck of the draw. We have glory because God said, you have glory. Somebody look at Colossians 3, 4. I'm going to challenge our traditional understanding of this. Colossians 3, verse 4. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. Now, we typically read that as a location. I don't think it's a where. I think it's a how. When Christ becomes your life, then his glory is evident. When Christ, who is your life, appears, you also appear. How? In glory. It's a how. How do people see you? They see the glory of God in you. How do you appear to people? With the glory of God. What weight do we wear as a mantle of Christ follower? That we are the glory of God. And that when people see us, they should see his glory. This isn't a where. This isn't, when Christ comes, you'll be with him in heaven, which is how I've always heard it explained. I think this is a how. We have glory, and the glory comes from the Creator. So again, what we see on repeat is everything that they do is limited in measure. And if they would accept God and the rule of Jesus, that he is God, the deity of Christ is the real thing, that is reality, well then everything they're seeking they find in him. Which isn't that the Bible? If you want to find life, what do? You lose it.
Yeah, but the Bible also is become like a little child. We're supposed to have a childlikeness.
A childlike faith. The Bible talks about that.
Not a big, huge ego.
Mm-hmm.
That's what all this stuff is.
It's an attempt, and this is every ism, an attempt to explain God things in us without God, is what it is. And different people try to do that different ways. The way they went is the way of pride. So this is the underlying motivation. Through pride, they tried to explain God things in us without God. That's you're right. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's a puffed upness.
But Proverbs says, it lays it out pretty clear. I mean, it talks to us like we're, like we got a brain.
Mm-hmm.
Think.
Mm-hmm.
It's not belittling or condemning, but it's saying, remember what your mother and father taught you.
Yeah.
Remember your father. God's relating to us as children.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those moments are super cool just because I have a son. And I just think it's super cool when Solomon would write, hey, let me teach you something my dad taught me. His dad was David, probably a guy you listen to, right? And I think those are cool moments where he's just letting us in because you can just see, David had a lot of wives, not as many as Solomon, but had a lot of kids, a lot of options to be king. And you can just see him, he just seems like a guy that would like kids. I'm the guy that likes kids, so that's probably why I read that into him, right? Maybe not. He was a warrior. Maybe he was like, get the kids out of here. I don't know. But I see him as especially in his old age, this soft guy that's like, kids, come here, let me teach you some things, And I just think those are cool moments when Proverbs does that. It talks to us like a kid because he was talked to because he was a kid, right? I think those are cool moments. So here's number fourth response. We're ending with this one. Humanism claims that human life should be extended by knowledge, but they don't extend life far enough. Somebody read Ecclesiastes 3:11. Speaking of Solomon. Ecclesiastes 3:11.
He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. Yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end.
He has set eternity into the human heart, into the hearts of men, in different translations says. What does that mean? What does it mean that he has set eternity into the hearts of man?
Kind of like that God-shaped hole we talk about,
Yeah.
something that we're looking for by whatever means, until we find real meaning.
Yeah.
Deep down in our being and our thoughts, we long for that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a longing, right? So if God has placed eternity in the hearts of man, you can either accept that or you can reject that. Those are your only options. If you can accept that there's an eternity, then it sends you in pursuit of, then you have a lot more options, right? What do we believe about eternity? How do we find eternity? What's the route to eternity, right? So there's a lot more options there. If you deny that, well, then it does something in you because that is there and it was placed there by your Creator. So now you have to continually deny that and you have to try to prove to yourself that that denial is real. And this is where we find things like this. This is an explanation for why they can continue to deny the eternity that has been placed in their hearts by God. And that's what they do.
But my issue with both sides, as far as this belief goes, and eternal life, afterlife, that's what I'm going to say the other side wants. They want power, they want money, they want to live longer because life's too short. So we all want eternal life, but they choose to try to achieve it by themselves.
It's true. They want it now. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So we also think that life should be prolonged through knowledge, right? Knowledge of the holy. Right? I mean, the Bible even says 70 years will be your number, with the blessings of God 80. Right? So that's the Brock version.
Well, they want eternal life, but as themselves, not have that.
Right. They don't want to submit to get it. They want to manufacture it themselves. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
They want to be able to say they did it.
They did it. It's the Tower of Babel all over. Yep. Yep. So they believe they overvalue humans. Nothing carries the same weight as being created, cherished, blessed, and gifted eternity by the God of creation. Nothing adds more value to a human than that. So the very thing that they're trying to do can be done through submission to Christ. And they're trying to gain it through opposition to Christ. So,
Remember what I was going to say.
yes, ma'am.
Proverbs says knowledge to itself just puffs itself up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all knowledge. I mean,
Mhm.
even, you know, you can have a lot of knowledge in the Bible, but if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, it's all messed up.
Yeah.
It's all puffed up.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Knowledge without Jesus is
Yeah. Knowledge without Jesus is messed up. That's the quote of the night. That's money. That's a money quote right there. Yeah. All right. Any questions or thoughts?
I believe that a lot of these people are emotionally handicapped, but they don't actually realize that they're opposing God. They're opposing themselves because they're emotionally handicapped by their feelings.
It could be. Yeah. So it is definitely an emotional thing, right? And if you don't have a knowledge of God, if you've rejected God, then you don't realize that by opposing him, you're opposing yourself. So you're exactly right on that. Again, listen, the proper response to humanism from a Christianity standpoint is not to shun, to mock, right? It's to understand where they're coming from so that we can relate to them and help them find Jesus. So, and that's the same thing with all of these different isms that we're going to look at. The point is we want to help them find Jesus, right? And there is some kind of a block. It could be emotional. It could be, pride's an emotion. Like it could be an emotional. It could be hurt. There are a lot of people that buy into this because of church hurt when they were a kid. Church hurt's one of the most difficult hurts to overcome. So, there's a lot going on there. Absolutely.
And I could see, like, if you were on, just a blank slate, which I am a lot of times, and you go in and people start teaching you this, and you really don't have a basis for the real truth. I could see how you could get sucked up into this.
Sure. Yeah, if you're a kid and someone's telling you that convenience is the key to morality, that sounds real great to a kid, right? The truth is relative and you get to choose your own adventure. Yeah, their kids are like, sign me up for that, right? Even their adults. There's a lot of adults who are like, yeah, I like that path. Yeah. So we can tell why this has mass appeal, but it's not just a rejection of God, it's an opposition of God. And I do think those are degrees of difference, right?
It opposes the true knowledge of Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And the Bible does tell us in our own minds that we are to cast down anything that opposes God, right? So anything that puffs itself up against the knowledge of God, we are to cast that down. And so for us, we don't want to slide into starting allowing this to seep into the church and into the way that we read the Bible and the way that we look at ourselves in the mirror. We don't want that. We want to cast that down. And we do see this in the corporate church big time. Well, let's pray. And then these tables and chairs we leave, all the other tables and chairs we'll put up tonight. So let's pray. Linda, would you close us in prayer?